Jim Koch and Phil Thomas. Phil can't be here tonight. There was a death not in his family, but they were pretty close and almost family, and so he's been helping out with that situation, and just couldn't make it tonight. But I want to send that family our well wishes and keep them in our thoughts. But I wanted just to spend some time talking about Jim here, and he wants to make sure you guys don't see his face because he can start crying. Jim and I started. Let's see, this is 14 on council and planning. So we've been doing this together, he and I, probably about 15 years. And I jumped on planning commission. He was already there, and he kind of showed me the ropes and learned a lot from him, and just being able to be a part of what Fountain was and what we were growing into. And Jim, I can say, was part of that growth of Fountain in the early days of when we were just a tiny little town moving on up, and Jim was a big part of that, and we took a couple of shots at running for council, didn't make it, and finally we did, and I don't know if that's good or bad for you guys, but we've had a good time with it. So, I've appreciated Jim's friendship and being able to sit next to him all these years and kind of hash things out together, and as we grow this city forward. So, just wanted to say thank you to Jim and again, of course, Phil, for all the hard work that they did, and you hear it all the time. It's a cliche anymore, but this is a really thankless job, and it really is. And you put yourself out there, you volunteer all this time, and people say, you're volunteer. Yep, it's a volunteer position, and you spend a lot of time doing all the work outside of even City Hall and talking to people and doing everything you can for the community and all 30,000 or so people that live here, and probably when we started there was 16,000, and that's the
really enjoyed it.
that's a growth we've had all those years. So again, thanks to Jim and Phil. Did you want to say anything real quick before I?
No, I'm fine.
You're fine. Okay, we did get him a plaque. It says, presented to Jim Koch, City Council at Large, 2011 to 2019, Mayor Pro Tem from 2013 to 2015. The City of Fountain appreciates your 8 years of leadership, dedication, and service to the citizens of Fountain, Colorado. Again, thank you all for coming a little bit early tonight to help us say goodbye to Jim. And I'm a little envious of him because he gets to go home and relax for the rest of the evening. So, we're looking forward to seeing you, and I know you'll still be involved and check in on us every once in a while. And
I miss Sylvia.
yeah, definitely.
Her and her right hook.
Yeah, her and her right hook. And if she doesn't hit you, she's got an eye glare that'll take you out too. So. Okay, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, you're going to get them? Okay. And, we really should say thank you to Ms. Koch. And, they've been a huge part of our community, the both of them, and all the work they've done for our city and things. So thank you to Ms. Koch as well for giving us Jim for a little bit. I know it gave you a break, but we're good. Yeah. Okay, we're going to wait about 3 or 4 more minutes, and then we'll start our meeting, and we'll do our swearing-ins of our new members, and then we will get started with our business for tonight. So give us a few minutes. Okay, good evening and welcome to our city council meeting for December 10th, 2019. It is 6 p.m. and we will get started. Again, thank you for coming a little early to help say goodbye to Jim and Phil. So calling a meeting to order. Are we going to do the pledge first or should we do swearing in first? Okay, we're going to do right into swearing in, so I'll let Sylvia take it.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Colorado, the Fountain City Charter, and city fountain ordinances and codes. I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of at-large council member in Fountain, Colorado, upon which I'm about to enter, to the best of my skill and ability.
And as she's coming up, we'll take about 5 minutes right after the others, or the last two, just so if you want to come and take pictures real quick, and we'll get those out of the way and get them seated, and we'll get started.
Oh, my goodness. Let me know when you're ready. You're trying to repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Colorado, the Fountain City Charter, and City of Fountain ordinances and codes. I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of at-large council member in Fountain, Colorado, upon which I'm about to enter, to the best of my skill and ability. Congratulations. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Colorado, the Fountain City Charter, and City of Fountain ordinances and codes. I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Ward 2 council member in Fountain, Colorado, upon which I'm about to enter, to the best of my skill and ability. Congratulations.
All right, congratulations, and if anybody wants to come up and take some quick pictures with the candidates, or not candidates, I'm sorry, the new council members, please come on up and we'll get started right around 6:10-ish. If you want to. Oh, we're going to go into recess, sorry. Okay. Did you sign your paper?
I did.
Okay, good. Okay, we'll have roll call. Oh, we need to do the pledge. Sorry. Thank you, Richard. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, roll call now, please.
Mayor Ortega.
Here.
Councilmember Thompson.
Here.
Councilmember Lauer.
Here.
Councilmember Estes.
Here.
Councilmember Applegate.
Here.
Councilmember Geek.
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
All 7 members present.
Okay, thanks. We will get right into our agenda. I will kind of, for the benefit of Ms. Duncan and Ms. Estes, I will kind of go through the process of things, and anytime you want to say something, get your light on so I know to call on you. Usually, whoever's on either side try to keep me in with the lights, because sometimes I keep going and I forget to look at the lights. So we'll try to make sure we're okay on that. So under presentations, we have State of the Fountain Valley Chamber of Commerce. We have Mr. Downing, our chamber president. Please come forward. And newly sworn in and returning school board member for Fountain Fort Carson. Congratulations.
Thank you. We need to do anything with this here? Is that where-
Yeah, just get it close to you so you,
Okay, thank you. How we doing there?
good.
Got that in the back? Beautiful, thank you. Excited to be here, excited to be back on the school board. I just want to say, Richard, welcome back.
Thank you.
And Ms. Duncan, and Ms. Estes, welcome to the city council. And we're excited to have you guys on board serving our city. I'd like to introduce, a lot of you all know me, have seen me give presentations. Some of you have heard how the chamber's doing as far as our organization and structure, but with a couple new council members, we brought you some materials, and so if you want to follow where I'm going tonight, I brought you all a folder with your names right on it, and that will be leading through some of that. But like I said, my face you're pretty familiar with, but I did bring a few of my board members with me. On the left-hand side of your folder, the first sheet actually has a list of our current board, and to include myself, I've got Tracy Kaninsky with me tonight. This is our vice president of the board. We have Kimberly Carejo, which is our office manager. Some of you will see her if you come here in City Hall. She's in the office and mans our office 4 days a week right now. And then also we have Jeff Clark. Most of you know Jeff, have seen him bust a move on the floor, Macarena, whatnot, here locally, and keeping us entertained, which we appreciate. And but I would also share with you, there's other folks that aren't here tonight. Angela Hoyle, James Flowers, Christy McGee, Carola Rafferty, Tina Galvin. The one thing I'd like to share with you, for those that don't have a history here, is our current board has a very positive energy in our group. And we are very selective on who we put on our board with business owners. We're looking for people that do what they say they're going to do. And, if you've ever been part of any organization, volunteer, charity, church group, you'll know that sometimes when you have a group of a committee of folks, there might be 6, 7, 8 people, but there's 1 or 2 that kind of carry the workload. That is not the case on our current Chamber of Commerce board. We have a group of doers. Those you won't know it, but we'll have our monthly meeting. That'll be later this week on a Thursday night. I don't run that meeting. Our meeting is run by our vice president. She's in charge of operations. She supervises our only employee that we have, and so she's the one that runs those operations. My role, which we'll get into very specific with our strategic chart, is to come to city council meetings, is to take care of our sponsors. I've got a list of our sponsors right here, and we're going to kind of give you a state of that chamber. But before we get into that, I'd like to just do a quick presentation to one of your people here in the city. Mr. John Trouch, would you come up here, sir? I've got a certificate of appreciation I want to read to you all that says, presented to John Trouch for your service and dedication to the Fountain Valley Chamber of Commerce. As a board member, your valuable guidance, support, and leadership was instrumental in the healthy growth, improvement, and sustainability of the Fountain Valley Chamber, given this 10th day of December 2019, signed by us and our members. But we want to, would you come down and maybe take a picture with us? We'd love that as we're giving this to John tonight. Thank you. We appreciate it. We're going to be on paparazzi camera 1 first? Yeah. I was going to put you in the middle, sir. There you are, right there. We'll let John have that little certificate of appreciation, and there we go. Got it, one take? That was pretty good, guys. Thank you, John. We appreciate it. For those of you specifically that are new to our board, there's a couple other things that we have in here. One is going to be a talking sheet that I'm going to go over very briefly. The other is going to be our core values, which is the sheet behind that on your right-hand side of your folder. And the last, which some of you are familiar in working with John, a strategic plan on executing exactly what we're going to execute on there. And so I would just share with you the biggest thing that has changed. If you were knowledgeable what was going on with the chamber 2 to 3 years ago, we were kind of in a grave situation. Our membership was about 63 members. We had 1 sponsor, and we were really close to going broke. Our focus was completely off, and what I mean by that very specifically is we were hosting things like haunted houses, chili cook-offs, summer dances, and things that had nothing to do with business. And we appreciate and we do support many activities in our community, but that wasn't on task with what we're doing. And so one of my visual aids over here is you'll see we currently have 7 sponsors. The 2 sponsors on top are what we call our platinum level sponsors, our highest donors, if you will, that support our chamber in Black Hills Energy, Tom Pogue, and also Taylor Meal over at Dignity. District 8 moved up from being a silver sponsor up to a gold sponsor, their only gold sponsor that we have this year. And then we also have you all, the City of Fountain, Rocky Mountain Bank and Trust, the Whitefield School District, and our newest sponsor, Pikes Peak International Raceway, that is coming on. So we've worked really hard in developing real strong relationships with our business community. Our focus has been really strong. And looking at this sheet right here, you'll see that we're up to almost 150 members. We've doubled our membership in the last couple of years. And we're continuing to work hard because our focus is on businesses and how we can help businesses succeed. We're getting out, we're visiting business, we're talking to business owners. We're making sure that we're on task, again, with our core values. And as we looked at building relationships, education, connecting, networking, and things like that we're doing, we made sure that the activities that we're specifically involved in were in line with our quarterly activities of our strategic plan. And as I mentioned earlier, those who haven't had that pleasure, John Trelch and his background and expertise, I know has worked with you all on a strategic plan as well. So we had outstanding guidance and leadership from John in helping us with that. And so in addition to that, we've looked at our activities that since I've seen you all last, we hosted the biggest event that we do every year, our 50th Fall Festival. It was a very, very successful Fall Festival. Thousands of people came out. It was a Golden Harvest focus this year on the tradition of where we were at. It was a profitable Fall Festival with the vendors and things that were there and paying their fees and booths and business owners and things like that. It was not only profitable for the businesses that were there, but it was profitable for the initiative that we ran as a fundraiser for our chamber. So as again, we've got in a very healthy position financially. We've also, with the 100th anniversary of the lineman statue that some of you guys are familiar with here as a project, we partnered to make sure that we are the organization that have collected those donations, held on to those donations, made sure that everything's good for an audit or anything for those collections of things. As a chamber, we partnered with you to make sure that we're working together. We've also partnered with you this holiday season for the free shuttle and bus that we as a chamber are promoting and telling businesses and people and citizens to shop locally and support local businesses, eat while you're out shopping. And we're providing the transportation with you all for those folks to go and enjoy that transportation. In addition to that, our breakfasts are going very well. We continue to meet at IHOP on the first and the third Friday of every month between 7 and 8. And some of you during election came by to see me. We had a bunch of other organizations that were trying to get some initiatives on the ballot come visit us. We're being recognized as an organization as we continue to grow, that businesses are understanding that we're an organization that has a voice out in our community. So I would encourage you guys to continue to come visit and see how things are going. at those particular things. One of the things I've been most impressed with the breakfast over the last couple years is we're connecting business with community and community with business. It's not uncommon when you come to the Chamber of Commerce breakfast that we have clergy there of all denominations. We have charity organizations like the Salvation Army has been there. Reach Pike Peak recently have come and visit and given different presentations and things like that. But we have charitable organizations and community organizations, school associations, and different groups, DECA, business, things like that, that you'll see those leaders at our community. So if you want to meet some of our business leaders and some of our community leaders, I continue to encourage you to come to breakfast. I do appreciate Scott Trainer, our police chief, our fire chief, our mayor, city manager have all come and been speakers at that. That's a wonderful draw. A lot of these business owners, because they're working in their business, don't have an opportunity to meet you all, and they love that they can make the connection, meet with some of you council members and leaders in our community. So I encourage you to keep coming. As businesses are open, we're going to continue to have ribbon cutting ceremonies. We'll continue to get the word out to make sure that you have an opportunity to continue to come out as businesses are opening. We had a meeting last night on the EDC over at Peaks and Pines Brewery. For those of you who know Paul, and I know who some of you called you out by name, and support his business. Yeah, keep smiling. And, but I would share with you, it's nice to get out to meet the business owners, to see how their business are doing. He was a raving fan of Kimberly Bailey and the great support that she did as a liaison here in the city. And that Fountain did a great job with that business and that organization of helping them come down here. And so he's a raving fan of this city and the support that he has. And so we're going to continue with training for our business leaders, and we're going to continue with after our open houses so that people have an opportunity to come visit the business locations at their actual locations so they can see where they are and be more familiar. That's all I have tonight from that perspective. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
Mr. Geek?
With your multiple roles,
Yes, sir.
I was wondering how you feel about the recreation center that we're trying to get going down here.
I am a tremendous fan. During the election process myself, I was quoted in the paper and said that I'm a huge fan. I think there's been a need for a long time for a rec center in our community. And now that I'm on the school board, I'm also an elder at the largest church in Fountain Valley and a member of the EDC, that I'll do everything I can to continue to promote. I think there's a strong need for that in our community.
Thank you very much.
Any other
Any
questions?
No other questions. I appreciate all the work you guys have done. The board, you and John and just everybody that has really put a lot of time and effort. And a lot of people don't really understand what's gone into where we were to where we are today, and the amount of work that's changed the focus of what you're really doing, and have turned the chamber into a chamber, a working chamber that supports business. So I would really highly recommend that council members, if you can make it out to one of the breakfasts, please go and let Tom know you're coming, but just go out and it gives you a chance to see who are the people that are involved and want to be a part of the community and who have a voice, and all of our sponsors. It's a pretty good list to have there. Some really strong partners there. So thanks to all the sponsors too that help keep us going now and moving forward. When we went, I was there just as support, but when the Recreation Task Force went to speak a couple weeks ago, they were able to give a lot of good information and good strategies of what to do next. As far as we're people of business, we know how to get things going off the ground. Here's how you guys can help. Your initiative, and so we found that very appreciative, and there are a lot of good ideas I think they took with them as well, and so hopefully they'll use that this year because it's going to be a big push. So again, thank you to you and the chamber and everything, and we look forward to what the next year brings.
Mayor Ortega, I appreciate those kind words, and to quote our city manager, a strong chamber helps make a stronger city, and it's all of us working together for this great community. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to move right into, we're missing lights or something. It seems darker here for some reason. Okay, anyway, we'll get that fixed. So we're going to move right into commission committee appointments. So we're going to start off with our appointment of Mayor Pro Tem. Did I need to say anything to this, or just go ahead and go into?
Right there in front of you at the base of your microphone, there's a folded piece of paper. That is your secret ballot. If you would fill it out, keep your ballot in front of you, and I'll be by to pick them up. I don't want you to pass them down, and then I'll read them out loud.
Okay, so can I say who's on the ballot?
Sure.
Okay, so we have Mr. Greg Lauer and Ms. Sharon Thompson on the ballot for Mayor Pro Tem. And so if you vote for those, she'll come around and mark that. You know what I should have done? No, it's probably too late. Everyone's voted. It's okay. Okay, then never mind, then we're good. What's that?
You can't write yourself in, you're the mayor.
I did ask that actually, but
Okay, I'll read the votes out loud in its entirety, all 7 votes.
okay.
Once there's a decision on the votes, then a motion needs to be made to appoint that person.
Okay.
We have a vote for Sharon Thompson. A vote for Sharon Thompson. A vote for Greg Lauer. A vote for Sharon Thompson. A vote for Greg Lauer. A vote for Greg Lauer. Final vote, Greg Lauer. 4 votes for Greg, 3 votes for Sharon. I need a motion to appoint Councilmember Greg Lauer as Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, Mr. Geek.
I make a motion to appoint Greg Lauer. Mayor Pro Tem.
And I will need a second from somebody. Okay, Ms. Estes.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for approval of Mr. Lauer as Mayor Pro Tem. Please vote.
6 yes, 1 no. Councilmember Thompson voting no. Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations, that's always a tough one. We'll move on to appoint members of council to outside committees. And so we have a few committees that we need to appoint towards. Let me find the commentary so I know what we're doing here. So we have a few different boards and commissions that we sit on. I know some of us want to stay where we are, and that's fine. What we really need to concentrate on is covering for Phil and Jim. I don't think Jim was on any at this point. But we'll go ahead and go. I'll start from the top of the list. And if there's any that we're missing, we need to talk about those as well. So for Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, PPACG, our incumbent is Sharon Thompson, and the alternate is Mayor Ortega. I think Ms. Thompson wants to stay on. Yeah, I have talked with Ms. Thompson as well about taking myself off as alternate. I'm just finding it really hard to make it, and in the summers, it's just I don't do a very good job at trying to make those meetings. So I'm going to open the alternate position up if anybody would like to do that as an alternate, and really it's to help with Sharon if she can't make the meeting. It would not be a bad thing if you went to a couple meetings just to see what those are like and help out with some of that thing. But that's where we are on that. If anybody would like to take the alternate position, the meetings are once a month on Wednesdays.
I'd really like to see it be a newer member. I think we need to start. I'd really like to see it be a new member, no offense, but I think we need to start looking towards the future, and since we're both termed out in 2 years, I think we need to start looking towards someone who's not gonna be termed out and can be taking that position, when I'm off.
And that was one of the other reasons why I didn't want to do that. I wanted to hopefully, if someone newer who's going to be here,
Yeah, I got a lot of good
because
points.
Richard would be another one that, he'll be here past that 2 years, so kind of take my spot and then start understanding and learning what that process looks like for PPACG, but give you that opportunity to grow into that and be able to take that over when we're.
When do they meet?
Sharon, when do they meet again?
I'm sorry?
When do they meet again?
Tomorrow, we meet the second Wednesday of each month,
Second Wednesday of each month.
9 to noon roughly.
9 to noon, and second Wednesdays of each month. And if nobody wants it, then I can continue on until we get someone.
I can do it.
You want to do it?
I can see it.
Okay. Is everyone, anybody else want to do that?
I'd be happy to do it, and I've already worked it out with my employer to be able to make those, but I totally get the idea of having one of the newer members, and think that that may actually be a wise choice. I mean, I'm happy to, but I'm also willing to defer. And I do think that's kind of a wise move.
Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and go with Ms. Estes on that. Do we need to vote on these? Or, okay, so we'll list Ms. Estes as the alternate for PPACG. And then the next one is PPACG Community Advisory Committee, the CAC. Our incumbent is Sharon Brown, and the alternate is Brandy Williams. Sharon just spoke with me before the meeting. I understand, Mr. Rick, are you interested in this as well?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and we have an alternate as Brandy Williams. Do we know anything on what she would like to do on this, or?
Most other communities, since CAC does stand for Citizens Advisory Committee, do have citizens,
Okay, and I'm okay either way.
on the board, so.
Okay, so we still have to appoint an alternate as well, right?
We need a primary and an alternate.
A primary and alternate, okay.
When do they meet?
Doesn't Sharon, are we gonna let Sharon stay?
Sharon Brown has stated that she'd like to continue on this
Okay.
committee.
So Sharon Brown has indicated she'd like to stay on the board, and Gordon Rick has also said he would like to be on the board, so we do have
Right.
2 positions open. Right.
Yeah, I actually
And
think that'd be a good idea.
I don't know what day you meet, Sharon. In. Like last Wednesday of the month, 3 to 5, okay.
Okay. So I'm kind of getting the consensus that we want to keep Sharon as the incumbent and appoint Mr. Rick as the alternate. Would you both be okay with that? Okay. Is the board okay with, or council okay with this?
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we'll go ahead and do that, and so we can relieve Brandy of one of her duties. That she might actually like that. And so I would just encourage Ms. Brown to ensure that if you're not gonna be there, to make sure Gordon knows so he can attend those meetings and maybe show up to the next meeting or if you can and figure out what's going on there and introduce yourself. And we'll get them the information that you're also gonna be on as well, so thank you for being able to do that. Pikes Peak Regional Building, our incumbent is Richard, and are you wanting to stay on with that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stay with that one. Colorado Municipal League Legislative Policy Committee, our incumbent was Phil Thomas, and he has been for a while, and we need to fill that position with somebody. I don't know if anybody is interested in doing that. You are? Okay. Anybody else?
I didn't hear who that was. Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry?
Who is interested?
Oh, Sharon.
Sharon.
Deidre wanted to know when they meet.
I have no idea when they meet. Yeah,
They don't have a regular meeting schedule. They'll typically meet before the legislative session's coming up. They'll have kind of by invitation. So they'll have a couple meetings, month back to back, and then you might not hear from them for a while, and they'll have some other follow-up meetings as they're scheduling their legislative agenda. So it's usually when they have them, they're all day or most of the day things. you go spend a Thursday or a Friday up in Denver, and they're actually, it's really a worthwhile group to be a part of, having been a part of that for a
And
long time.
CML, for everyone out there, is Colorado Municipal League, and they kind of are the, what would you consider that, organization that,
They're the lobbying body for municipal interests in the state.
yeah, for all the cities, and so, there's usually a conference we go to every summer, and it's a good opportunity for new council members to go and meet other council members across the state of Colorado, which is really cool, and see other things that are going on, and so being a part of the policy committee also helps with, things that are going through legislature, that can and will affect us at the city level, and so oftentimes they'll meet and work with, our lobbyists that go to those and try to influence votes, so, and I know Sharon is also you're on the legislative committee for PPACG as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So just, if you'd be okay, Mayor, I'll just, this year, they met once in September, once in October, once in December, and their next meeting's in February, and then June. So they don't have a lot of meetings, every few months they might have a meeting. Looks like this year, during the year, they had 4 meetings. One of them, I can't tell if it was 1 or 2 meetings, but it looks like they had 4 meetings
Okay.
in the entire year.
I'd be interested.
Okay, you'd be interested. Sharon said she'd be interested. Anybody else? Okay, I don't know how we hash that one out. Do we,
And that's when we can appoint an alternate to as well.
we can? Well, my suggestion would be to have, Sharon as the regular member, since she's a part of that committee as well for PPACG, and then I'm appoint, Ms. Duncan as the alternate, if that seems okay with everybody. Yes. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so did you get that? Okay. Next is Emergency Services Association, the ESA. Our incumbent right now is Sam Geek. You're gonna stay with that?
If it's all right.
What's that?
If it's okay.
Okay, I'll get to it. So, anybody else have an interest in that, or is we okay with Sam continuing on with that? I think that partnership and with Chief moving forward on the ESA is a good thing, so we'll go ahead and continue that one.
We need an alternate.
One of us is there.
I think usually yeah.
I mean, the chief and I are making sure one of us is there, and I'm on the board now. I'm the vice president, so.
Oh, okay. Okay, and I skipped over Fountain Creek Watershed. Our incumbent currently is Mr. Lauer, and I am the alternate. And again, I want to take myself off as alternate at this point, mainly because I want to make sure someone else can get in. And the Fountain Creek Watershed District is a pretty involved district. It's brand new. It's not brand new, but newer compared to all the other districts. And there's a lot going on there that I think is going to take a whole lot more precedence in the region as development continues around the creek, and who's responsible to report to them. And they are a governing board that have authority over land use and things, and within a certain radius of the creek, and so and the watershed itself. So I know there's a lot of work going on right now with that, and when that 50 million came through finally because of SDS, that kind of the real work has really started. So they meet the fourth Friday
Fourth Friday at
of the month,
2 o'clock usually here.
and we've been hosting the meeting since its inception. So we will continue to do that. That's kind of our in-kind, part of our in-kind, and pretty important that we're there. So if anybody else would like to be a part of that.
I can do it.
You want to try it out?
I can try it out.
Okay, it's a
Sounds
great
like
group,
interesting.
and yeah, it's a great group, and you learn a lot about water, and the other part you get to learn about is the politics between Colorado Springs and Pueblo, and how we're in the middle of it, and we are truly in the middle of that, and
Absolutely.
you know, Greg and I have worked really hard to kind of keep the peace, but at the same time, it's hard. So it'll be interesting. So we'll have we're going to reappoint Greg to the incumbent and appoint Ms. Estes to the alternate position on that. Okay, Fountain Valley Senior Center, our incumbent is Sharon again, or you want to stay on as that one? For Fountain Senior Center? Okay, and does that need an alternate, or are we good?
I'm already on the board.
Oh, are you?
I can serve as the alternate because I'm already on the board.
Okay. What are you on the board as? Like, what's your,
Disability.
okay,
Yeah.
what's that?
At large.
Okay. And that won't cause a conflict of any kind, you think?
Well, there is, Jolene was a little concerned about that, so.
The only time it might cause a conflict is if we have to recuse ourselves for voting on an issue and they didn't have a quorum, they would have to bring that issue over to the next
But-
meeting. But as far as this being alternate and primary, I don't know. Troy?
Well, having both council members as board members, you see where I'm going with that? Not so much as alternate and member, but now you have two council members who are, and I know she's representing a different entity. Ms. Estes, does that matter? I just want to make sure we're,
He's on board too, so.
oh, you are?
Not to complicate things, but I'm also on the board for the senior center.
You needed an attorney.
So as just a professional, so I think there may come times when there is a conflict, but certainly I can help them navigate any conflicts that may arise. But the conflicts that are going to arise are going to be as a member of the board for the senior center, not as a council member, probably, or if it has to do with the rec center.
Okay.
And so I think it's navigable, but something that we just will pay attention to and make sure there's not going to be any problems as things come up. But I don't think on its face I don't see a problem with it.
Okay, and I didn't want I don't know what I was gonna say. Okay, so I'm okay with that, since you're already there and you wanna, I think the main thing is if there's a vote that could be seen as a conflict, it just really needs to be stated that Ms. Estes is there as, what you're doing currently now, not as council member. And-
Yeah, so what I've done is if there's a vote, say, on the contract for the metro, the bus, then I just recuse myself and leave the room. And because it would be something we would be voting on in council, and I would assume Tamara would have to do the same thing.
Exactly. No matter what her role is, she would have the same ethical
Oh, okay.
obligations. Yeah. So and that's kind of what I mean by it would cause problems more on the senior center side of a quorum, but knowing the board that they should be able to establish a quorum without the two of them fairly easily. So
Okay,
I think it'll be okay.
okay, so let's just go with that. Are we okay,
If we- yeah.
Ms. Huffman?
It would be nice to have somebody up to speed that's there.
Yeah, right. And then Fountain Herbal Renewal Authority is Fura. I just was put on as a comment, which I'm gonna go ahead and continue. Now, we have an alternate position, but it's not a voting alternate position. So I had gone a couple times for Phil and was voting, and Kimberly had to slap my hand a couple times, say you can't vote, but you can go and at least represent the city. If you want to be an alternate, I think that's the way we can do that. But under the bylaws, if you go as my alternate, you're not a voting member. You're just there to kind of be a part of the discussion. And I think for the FURA, it's important that someone from the city is there to help support Kimberly and what we're doing. So if someone would like to fill that position, they meet the fourth. Is it the fourth Wednesdays? I've only gone to 2 now. Fourth Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. They're usually about an hour to 2 hour meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll just put him as kind of the backup alternate, if that makes sense.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to address the issue of, I think that the FURA needs to review that bylaw and make it so that the alternate is a voting position. I think that could probably fairly easily be addressed.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. We just haven't done anything yet. We're kind of waiting to
Yeah.
get through.
I'd like to see the board make that for a goal in the
so-
next 6 months.
Okay, I can talk to him about it. Okay. And then the last one is the Old Town Steering Committee. and our incumbent is Ms. Thompson. You want to stay? Oh, you are?
I represent the museum.
Okay.
There's actually just others.
Okay. Anybody else would like to be an alternate on that one?
Open meetings, yeah, they're just open,
Yeah.
more the merrier, and just, they're open public meetings, so there isn't, they're open public meetings, right? So I don't think there would be any reason that,
Oh, there's Miss Kimberly.
yeah.
I saw you earlier. I'm like, she left. Sorry.
Yes, they are open public meetings, and they're not officially a board.
Oh, they're not. So it's just
Working body committee.
Right.
okay.
We don't have bylaws.
So we don't really need a.
No, but we wanted to recognize that
Okay.
working group,
Right.
for anybody on council that may want to have an interest, just participate.
Okay. Okay.
So come on down, more the merrier.
All right. Yeah.
They're
Come on
like
down if
really
you wanna be a part
early.
of it.
So you can get there before you go to work.
Okay. And so we're gonna go ahead and stick with that. If you want to see what that's about, council, I would go ahead and make sure you're go to the next meeting or two and see what they're talking about and doing. So, and did you get that about the voting member thing? Okay. Good. Now I won't forget. Okay. That's it as far as are we missing any? Or are we good?
No. I'm on the Board of Health.
The Board of Health? Yeah, okay. So we don't have to do that yet.
No, but
Okay.
you wanna have to.
Okay, eventually. And then, so I know for the Fountain Creek Watershed District, we will need to write a formal letter appointing, because I think Greg's term is up anyway. So we need to formally appoint he and Ms. Estes, get a letter drafted up, and that one I think we need to vote on. Is that correct? Because that's appointed by us. I just realized that. For Fountain Creek Watershed. So can we go ahead and make that vote now? Okay, so I'll just go ahead and make the motion so we can get moving for the incumbent to stay as Greg Lauer, and then our alternate is to replace Mayor Ortega is Councilwoman Estes. That's my motion. Mr. Lauer?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for appointment of those two. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, and I know I've signed a letter in the past, so we'll just need to get that taken care of and off to Greg so he can hand it to the board. I think that's it for appointments, so,
There is one other committee off of PPACG, the MCC, Mobile Coordinating Committee. Sharon, is your term up on that, or do we have an alternate? Oh, because we're the only other city with a transit, yeah. But do we have an alternate on that board? We don't have an alternate? Okay.
okay.
Well, I think it would be good to look at getting a citizen as an alternate on that committee.
Okay,
We are the only city that has an alternate on the CAC.
I understand that, and we were asked to be on that committee, to have a representative from the City of Fountain Transit Committee, so.
okay. Okay, so I guess if anybody's interested in that, let someone know up here, or let Ms. Brown know so that she can forward that name to us, is just to have that extra person. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item number 5, City Council Agenda Requests and Announcements. I'll start with, so this is the point in the meeting for Ms. Duncan and Ms. Estes, where if there's something you want to bring forward to the council to maybe start talking about, bring as an agenda item for a future meeting, kind of our opportunity to bring that forward to the group. And of course, any announcements that you know of that are going on in town that you would like to talk about. And we always try to catch everything that's going on, but if there's, or something that you know of that you want to make sure everybody knows about in the public as well. So I'll start with Ms. Duncan if there's anything tonight.
I don't have anything.
Okay, Mr. Geek,
Nothing?
Mr. Applegate,
Nothing.
Ms. Estes?
The museum will be hosting an airing of the Homicide Hunter program at the library this Thursday evening at 7 p.m.
Okay, awesome. And that was on
The Homicide Hunter with the murder board confession that we have in the museum.
cool. Okay, Mr. Lauer.
Speaking of the Fountain Creek Watershed District, which we just were a few minutes ago, our long-serving executive director, Mr. Small, gave notice to the board of directors at the last meeting that he intends not to continue in 2020 as the executive director for the Fountain Creek Watershed District. He will be posting soon. He's putting together a position requisition or position description and so forth that'll be posting on the district's website by the end of the week, and then several other public places. If anyone is interested in taking a look at that, it's www.fountain-crk.org. It'll be right there, hard to miss on the front. We have one candidate who's already emerged, but the board of directors is interested in looking at several before we make a decision. With the things, with all the work and the projects coming up and the way that district interfaces with everybody from the governor's office down through the different water basins and even people out of state, we're looking for a specific person in that, or a specific combination of skills, not a specific person, but a specific combination of skills brought to the table to fill that position. So once you see the posting open, if you or someone you know might be interested in becoming our executive director, feel free to let us know. Mr. Small did say that he would provide at least a 90-day transition period once we select somebody. So nobody who takes that position would ever have to go in, stone cold. But just be aware, whoever takes it is going to earn every penny of the salary, and probably more so. Our next meeting, speaking of that district, the next meeting is not going to be until January. The district just approved the operating budget for next year for both the district and the enterprise, and the next meeting will be January in chambers on the fourth Friday of the month. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. And I wonder if it would be appropriate if we either sent a letter or presented a certificate to Mr. Small, because he was on Colorado Springs City Council when the formation of the district occurred, when he was term limited, or I don't know if he was term limited or got not voted off, but didn't get reelected to the city council. He then applied and became our executive director, and has been running it since well before its inception. So, and he has always, I feel like, has really kept Fountain in the forefront of that conversation, that discussion. So maybe we can coordinate something for Mr. Small and get him some recognition, because that's when we originally looked for executive directors look to get paid in the hundreds of thousands, and we just, as a board or district back then, didn't have the money, and so now that we have the money and the projects are moving, they may be able to actually pay someone that. He was willing to take a vastly and drastically smaller salary than what a real executive director would be making. So, not that he's not a real executive director, but you get my point. So, for him to step up and be able to do that, I think we should kind of recognize him for that. And okay, thank you. Okay, and Ms. Thompson.
Thank the Parks Department for cleaning up the tree lighting and for the new arch that we have down in the park.
Oh yeah.
That looks really, really nice. Also, I'd like to thank John for making sure that the community resource guide is on the front of the web page, and I'd like to make sure we're pushing that with citizens. Karen Scher did 2 Saturday giveaways of food, and the #1 zip code for both those giveaways was 80817.
Oh wow.
And those people are driving all the way up to Constitution and wherever and sitting there for hours burning gas. And we've got a lot of resources in this community that are giving food away. So if they're not totally out of food, there's a lot of resources in this community. Reach Pikes Peak is giving away food 3 days a week. We have mobile food pantries down here. We have Connections for Life giving away food every Thursday evening. So there's a lot of resources around here. We still have God's Pantry and Security Whitefield that's giving out food. So if people know someone in need of food or any type of different community services, it's on the front page of our web page, and it's the Community Resource Guide. right on the front page of the city webpage on the right-hand side. So please make sure people are aware of that. If you see somebody, you know, on Facebook, next door needing food or hearing of somebody that needs something, you know, please hook, you know, give them those, that web reference, because, we don't need them to be driving all the way up there if they can get what they need down here in Fountain. So there are plenty of food services in different times. And we do, Reach Pikes Peak is talking about trying to get maybe a Saturday giveaway down here, but they just have to figure out the manpower and rearranging their schedule, so. But, there are food and clothes available, so. If anybody needs food, Thursday night giveaway, I think they start at 5 at Connections for Life, right there behind, Walmart on Academy. So anyways, I wanted to give to the council, this is a draft because we're voting on it tomorrow at PPACG, the overreaching legislative themes that we're gonna be working on this year, Scott. And to, the 3 main themes, we're gonna be really emphasizing to our state elected officials and our governor. The 3 overreaching themes are support of local control, and we're hoping local communities will join together in opposing unfunded mandates to local governments and support legislation related to addressing redundant or unnecessary regulation. We do know the Family Act is going to come back probably the first week in January. Nobody has seen it. Remember that was going to cost the county millions of dollars last year in the form it was written up. So we're hoping if that comes back, it comes back in not quite a expensive plan. You know, there would have been a lot of services cut. I think they said their entire roads budget would have been taken up with the changes that they were putting down for Family Leave Act for the county. So it was millions and millions of unfunded mandates coming down. We had the changes in the how many voting boxes and different things that were going to cost the county a ton of money. So if you hear of programs being talked about, the big question we need to really have on the front of our mind is how is that going to be paid for, because we cannot have millions of dollars of unfunded mandates coming down to El Paso County and our city. So, you know, if they're going to force these mandates on us, then we need to, they need to figure out how the state is going to pay for them. So that's going to be our overreaching themes that we're going to be voting on, and then you can kind of just see what we've picked for our main themes under all of our different categories. So we will be going up and having a breakfast, and anybody and everybody is willing to go to that. I don't know when it is yet, but just to kind of meet and greet with our legislators and make sure who we are. And there's some interesting things that we've already heard coming down, and it's going to be a rough year, and we really need to have our heads in the game. So and be aware of what's going on, and being willing to write letters when things are coming down that are unfunded and could really, really impact us as a local community and our ability to do what we need to do for our city. So, so I just want to give everybody that, and so you can have a copy of that. And like I said, we will be voting on this as a draft until tomorrow when we vote on it. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but when you go up to Academy now, they've done a lot of construction marking and pink flags and stuff when you get off Academy. Be looking for that construction to get ready. That's part of the build grant that we received that had to do with Gate 19, is also part of the widening of Academy and redoing that bridge. So it's going to be really interesting getting around here when that all gets started. But so if anybody asks any questions about that, that is what a part of that is. And Brandy has been working on that. Got her appointed to that project from the get-go with that. So she is doing a fantastic representation with us on working on that committee with CDOT and El Paso County and everything. So, and then I was with police today at the Reach Pikes Peak, not Reach Pikes Peak, Communities That Care did their end of the year update. And that's a great group of people. I don't know if you guys remember Communities That Care started about 4 years ago in the community, and had a lot of fantastic ideas, and it's really, really great. There was probably about, maybe 50 people there today? And to see them this really still involved with that, and that project still going, because it could have very easily derailed. And we have a bunch of people in this community that are really committed to working on drug prevention through that program, and bullying, and just a lot of things that have come out of that, so.
Okay. And so, kind of to piggyback on that, I got an email today. I was invited to sit on a panel in Washington D.C. On exactly that, communities that care, and they want to talk about how we are targeting youth to prevent substance abuse and things like that. So I just got it today. Got to figure out exactly what all that looks like and what that. But it's for the Mayor's Innovation Project, U.S. Conference of Mayors, in Washington D.C. in January. So, and they're willing to pay all my travel costs and things. So, I know we've started that a long time ago, and we did the policy on cigarettes and things like that. I worked with, I can't even remember the lady's name at this point back then, but it's man, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. So we'll kind of put some stuff together and see what that looks like, and I'll get more information out as more I get it. But just came through today. I was kind of surprised with that one. So did want to say I did go to the Reach Pikes Peak breakfast last week that they hosted their first annual breakfast in town here in this part of the county, and we've always been a big supporter of Reach Pikes Peak, and Aaron Garcia has been on the board, and Troy, you're on the board now as well, and so it was a good breakfast. Sharon was there just to be able to kind of learn about what they do. Their first year, and I really encourage everyone to get onto their website. It really helps with utility bills for families who need that extra help. Also, they have food, as Sharon said earlier. So there's just a lot of good things that they do for people, and they try to hook you up as best they can with whatever kind of needs you have, especially this time of year when it's cold outside and people just need something, and so they have a lot of that extra help. And what I got out of it is if you're in need, they're going to help. They're going to figure out a way to help you out. So take a look at their website. I'm going to be meeting with Patrice, who is their CEO, hopefully sometime in January, and just kind of figure out how Fountain can be a little bit more of a partner. And I know we got some great people on that board kind of representing us, but see what we can do to further that mission a little bit better, especially down here.
We do provide office space for them
Right.
in Fountain. That's a big part of what we do as the city to support them, along with supporting them from our Lighten the Load program with the utilities.
Right. And I think she even mentioned it at the breakfast. So they have their main flagship, she called it, office in downtown. They have an office out east in Callahan.
In Callahan, that's
Callahan, and they mentioned that they have some office space here that they use. So again, I encourage everyone to take a look at that, and if you want to donate and that's something you do, and you're looking for someone new, try Reach Pikes Peak. I think that's it on that. So the only other announcement is next week is are going to be our second meeting of the month because of Christmas break. Not so much Christmas break, but Christmas Eve would be our next council meeting. So we're going to move it to next week, and that should already be listed and everything. So we'll still be here same time. Okay, item number 6, public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Please sign up with the city clerk part of the meeting. We ask that council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. And out of respect for the council and others in attendance, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. I have no cards tonight. Is that right, Ms. Huffman? Okay. So we will go ahead and continue moving forward to our consent agenda. Item number 7, all items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Again, add to discretion of the council. We have items A and B. Mr. Geek.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, and Mr. Applegate.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of our items. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, item 8, old business. We have no items under old business, so I will move on to item 9, new business. Nothing from consent agenda, so we're gonna do this a little together tonight. So items B and C will be read. I'm gonna open a public hearing for both items. I'll read both of them into the record, and then when it comes time to close the hearing, we will vote separately on each item. Does that sound copacetic with everybody? Okay, so give me a few seconds here to read through everything. I'll start with item B. I'm opening a public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 1743, an ordinance approving an overall development plan for Aspen Ranch, generally located east of Link Road and north of Kane Road, hereinafter more specifically described in Exhibit A and Exhibit B. And then, of course, item C, I've opened the public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 1744, an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Fountain from single-family small lot residential R1 district and Village Center VC district to the planned unit development PUS district for property generally located east of Link Road and north of Kane Road, also known as Aspen Ranch, hereinafter more specifically described in Exhibits A and B. Ms. Martinez.
Thank you. Because the.
Hold on real quick, Ms. Martinez. So, again, for the benefit of our new council members, so under public hearing, we allow staff to give their presentation. If the applicant or whoever is here for their item, they get an opportunity to come up, after which we listen to public. We as council, it's good practice to hold off any opinion, but try to just listen and you can ask questions and do whatever during public comment, but allow public, that's their time to kind of say their piece. Once that public portion has happened, I then allow applicant and city to get back up if they need to. And if not, then we close the public hearing, and then that's up for discussion for council at that time, and then we make a vote. So, sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning. That I
You're
wanted
okay. I was
make
gonna
sure that,
say, I was gonna do both the presentations together, but I will pause halfway through in case
Oh,
there's
yeah.
questions
So she
on
will
there.
let us know when we're talking about which item, B or C.
Yes. So the first item is the overall development plan for Aspen Ranch. The property is located at the northeast corner of Kane Road and Link, and it's currently split zoned between the single-family residential and the Village Center Zone District. The property to be discussed tonight is approximately 59 acres, and they're also seeking concurrent approval of the planned unit development zone district. Within their development, they're proposing a maximum of 271 dwelling units with lot sizes that range from 4,000 square feet all the way up to 8,000 square feet and above. They'll also have a 1 acre public safety site located along Link and Watchman Road. For access to the property, the main access will, they'll have access from Link Road to Watchman to the east. That will be a stop sign controlled intersection at Link. Crescent Moon along the eastern boundary will be constructed from Kane Road north to the northernmost access point to their development. There is planned 2 access points onto Crescent Moon. Link Road will also be widened with curb gutter and sidewalk as part of this development on the east side. And Kane Road will also be widened and improved with curb gutter and sidewalk along the southern boundary. A 6-foot masonry stucco fence is proposed along both Kane and Link based on the roadway classification for the perimeter fencing. The drainage basin is located in the southwest corner of the property. This area is within the Jimmy Camp Creek drainage basin, which is a fee collecting basin. All detention ponds within the city of Fountain are required to detain any on-site flows at a historical rate and slowly over a 72-hour period. Open space within the development, they're proposing 11.5 acres of open space, of which approximately a 7-acre neighborhood park site with 4.5 acres of open space along the streets, and then a 1.8 acre site for the detention pond. All PUD developments do require a minimum of 25% open space. They are a little bit short of that at 19.5% of open space proposed. However, they are proposing to provide amenities in lieu within that neighborhood park at a land value of $120,000 per acre. That's based on a land value that if the city were to go in and construct a park of that same quality, the dollar figure per acre is what the city would incur for that. They are proposing $384,000 in park improvements, which would include playground equipment, benches, tables, and a shade structure. A geological hazard report was also provided with the development, which identified expansive soils and seasonal groundwater and some collapsible soils. Perimeter drain is planned to be installed within the street to address some of the groundwater concerns, and then any other issues can be mitigated through engineering design practices of over-excavating and backfilling with clean fill. This is their proposed overall development plan. So their detention pond, as I had mentioned, is located in the southwest corner. Their neighborhood park site is mainly located within the center of their development, and the 1 acre safety center site is at Watchman. Currently, Watchman comes to a T at Link, and it is a right-in, right-out only that will then be modified to be full access intersection. However, there will be 2 stop signs on the east and west side of Link and will not be a signalized intersection. As the roadway improvements to Link have been occurring, there will be a signal at Squirrel Creek and Link, and then a future roundabout down here at Kane and Link. The comprehensive development plan, future land use, does recommend village center and single-family residential. The proposal is generally in conformance with the comprehensive development plan because there is still a 20-acre village center parcel directly north of this, right at the intersection of Link and Squirrel Creek, that is better situated for commercial than this property based on the limited access that Link can provide. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan also identifies a 5 to 12 acre neighborhood park site in this area. Their plan does conform with those regulations and recommendations. Staff finds that the overall development plan is consistent with the review criteria outlined in the zoning ordinance. This item was also presented before the Planning Commission in November, where they made a recommendation of approval of a 6-to-1 vote, subject to 7 conditions. Mainly dealing with the parks and open space amenities and the usage of those amenities to be used to meet their open space requirements can't be used towards a future reduction in their park fees. That the developer will be responsible for the portion of the reconstruction of Link Road from Squirrel Creek Road south to Kane. That the property is located within the East Side Transmission Main Recovery Agreement, and they will be subject to a surcharge at time of building permit. And the Planning Commission also added conditions 6 and 7, which were that a fence be provided around the detention pond and that a crosswalk is provided at Link Road and Watchman. After further evaluation through various staff members, through the police department and engineering, there were some concerns with those last 2 conditions that were recommended by Planning Commission. The first one being that the maintenance of the detention pond could potentially be impaired if there's a fence placed around that, and also from the public safety aspect, that it becomes an issue if the detention pond is fully enclosed, and would also hinder their response time and visibility if there was an issue taking place within the detention pond area. And then the second one was the addition of a crosswalk at Link. It will actually make the pedestrian crossing at this location more unsafe because there is not a signalized intersection there, that it would just be a striped crosswalk along Link, which will ultimately plan to be much wider than what it is currently. Tonight, staff would recommend approval of Ordinance 1743 on first reading, subject to 4 conditions, which are the park and open space amenities, the traffic impact fees to be assessed at the time of building permit, that they are responsible, the developer's responsible for the reconstruction of Link Road from Squirrel Creek south to Kane, and that they are part of the East Side Transmission Main Recovery. We would not recommend that council move forward with the 2 recommended conditions that Planning Commission had made a recommendation. That's all I have on their overall development plan at this time. Are there questions associated with the overall development plan
Any questions
before I move on?
on this portion?
I just have one thing to say. We get a packet here, and we've got a plan in there to look at in our packet, and it's 8 by 11, 8.5 by 11. It makes no sense. You can't read it. It might as well not even be there. We need to get a 22 by 15 and fold it, and whoever puts those out next time, so we can at least see what we're looking at.
Jeff, Mr. Geek?
Yeah, on Kane Road, are they planning on doing something as far as the road there?
They are. As part of their development, they will be improving the southern side or the northern side of Kane on their southern boundary of their property with curb gutter and sidewalk.
Okay, how about
But-
asphalt?
Yes.
My only concern there is with, when they flood those fields down there, what happens then?
So with the irrigation, the irrigation occurs approximately 3 to 4 times a year. They're still going to follow the same historical flows, which comes from the east side down through the property into the detention pond with existing piping under Link Road
Okay.
to go out. So that is still being addressed.
But are they gonna flow it under Kane now?
No, it's still going to follow the same historic
Historically, it
directions.
flows over Kane sometimes when there's water running.
Well, I'll have to defer to the applicant to address any more further details on that one.
Put a bigger culvert. There's a culvert there, I think, but they just need a bigger one.
Yes, they are planning, there's 2 pipes existing that go under Link for the drainage and the irrigation that I believe is being pipes being increased than just one pipe, correct? So there's gonna be one pipe that's much larger than the capacity of the two smaller pipes.
And Kane is currently dirt, isn't it?
Yes, it will be paved as part of that.
Okay, but I heard you say the northern, but the whole road's gonna be
Yes,
paved.
it's not gonna be half paved and
Okay,
half
that's what I was
dirt.
concerned.
No, they're just not
I
putting the
heard,
curb gutter and sidewalk on the southern side of
The
Kane
northern
at this-
side.
The northern side will have paving and curb gutter and sidewalk. The whole road will have paving.
Right.
The
But
southern side will have the rule.
If that field floods, where's that water going?
I'll have to defer to the applicant on that one for the details.
That's what you're talking about, the new bigger culvert under Kane to run the field water under the road. I know.
Well, that plus the fact how much, and we spend a lot of time out there grading that road, trying to keep that.
How many times a year is that area currently being graded? It seems like I'm hearing about it a
I'm
lot.
not sure. I didn't know how many.
And we don't want, I mean, if you got asphalt, you don't want dirt on top of the asphalt. I'm just asking, I don't.
Logically there, if they put a bigger culvert, would be to raise the road a foot or so. To make
I'm
sure
not
it
sure how the
doesn't run
roadway
over. It just
design-
adds more material. They're gonna have plenty of material when they dig basements anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
I have one other thing. If they're really gonna put a crosswalk there, they need one of those pedestrian activated lights there that only works when the kids push the light, so it'll stop
That-
people.
But you're talking about condition 6 from planning, is that what the one crosswalk you're talking about?
The one at Watchman.
Okay, but we'll get to that. That's a recommendation by.
Planning Commission.
By planning. I wouldn't want to put a crosswalk there personally.
I wouldn't either. That's why I
yeah.
said that if they're going to.
Okay, no, okay. Yeah, I just want to be clear that I don't know that, staff's not recommending that. I certainly wouldn't recommend that either, but, okay, not with the current state of that road and how much traffic goes through there. But a crosswalk would be dangerous.
Yes.
Okay, so that's it on this,
On this portion.
on item B. We're gonna go to C now?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a light on.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Who is going to be responsible for maintaining the open space?
The Metro District.
Okay, the Metro District will? Okay. And the parks and amenities that are in this, what are they putting in the parks?
They will include multi-purpose fields. There's some playground equipment, some park benches, and a gazebo, I believe.
And at what point in the development is that being put in?
It will be phased. With it, I believe right now they're planning to develop everything within the first phase. So as the park develops, it'll all be in there with the houses.
Is there some way to put in there, like we did at Ventana, to kind of hold their feet to the fire so stuff is done at certain phases?
And we can look at that when we do their subdivision to phase to make sure that there are amenities provided. And it's not held to the
And I
last
think
filing.
everybody's familiar with the fact that the reason we're saying this is because we do have some developments around town where certain phases were never finished, or they were done years and years later. And so fields were left there empty and weeds and, certain amenities. I think Deidre could probably speak to that. Certain amenities that weren't brought in that were promised. And I think we owe it, at some point we kind of owe it to our citizens to say things that are promised are going to be put in a timely manner. And I know the developers have to sell a certain amount of houses to get all that done, and I get all that, but we need to make sure it's being done in the phases.
I've got that down.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
There's nothing else. I'll go on to the rezone.
go ahead.
Again, it's just the same area. Right now, there's approximately 16 acres that's currently zoned Village Center and 43 acres zoned R1. The surrounding land uses include commercial and large lot, residential, agricultural, and single-family development to the west, which is the Eagle Side and Cumberland Green development. Again, the future land use plan does recommend single-family and Village Center. It is in general conformance due to the limited access on link for commercial access. Staff does find that the rezoning request is generally consistent with the review criteria outlined in the zoning ordinance, and we would not oppose the request, the rezone, or the approval of ordinance 1744 on first reading tonight. Are there any questions
Any questions on the
rezone?
rezone portion of this? Okay,
And the applicant is here if there's more questions. that
Okay,
I
does the
was not
applicant
able
have
to
anything they'd like to say, or?
Good evening. My name is Jason Allwine with Matrix Design Group. We were the planning and the civil engineering firm for this project. I do have a full presentation that I'd be happy to go through if that interests you, or I can answer specific questions, or do kind of a truncated version of the presentation, whatever the council prefers tonight.
I think, go ahead and do the presentation and.
All right, sounds good to me. That's why I'm here. So I just wanted to make sure I know, the meeting's running kind of long, so just want to make sure everyone was still on board with that. Let's see. So as Christy mentioned, I'll kind of run through a couple of these pretty quickly. The site is located at the northeast corner of existing Kane and Link Road. Here's kind of a zoomed in version. As you can see to the west, we have the Eagleside subdivision, Cumberland Green, the Eagleside Elementary School, and then currently the Eagleside Ridge, what's known as Eagleside Ridge property, which is part of the county to date. We are requesting the rezone, as Christy mentioned, the existing R1 VC to the proposed PUD. We requested the proposed PUD because it allows us to do a variety of the lot sizes, which I'll get into a little bit more detail in a minute. I show this map. This is the comprehensive plan update taken from the current comprehensive plan. I point this out. There was some initial discussions with staff regarding the rezone and the loss of commercial of the VC. Some of the things we work through with staff is, one, we don't get direct access from Link Road to this commercial parcel or to the VC, so it'd be a very difficult parcel to develop from a commercial standpoint. And then globally looking out, within a mile radius, just east of our, I believe it's this guy here is quite a large future development of large retail, large commercial, multifamily, which sort of begins to establish that commercial corridor. And again, at kind of Squirrel Creek and Link Road, where there's a major intersection, again, a much more desirable commercial node. So from that standpoint, we felt it was justified to remove that VC zone and go strictly to the residential on this parcel. This is the existing 2005 annexation agreement land use map. I bring this up because they're on the southeastern and eastern boundary. We are held to certain lot sizes we have to meet from a minimum square foot size standpoint. I bring this up because I get into the future slides. You'll see that we are meeting this annexation agreement with 6,000 and 8,000 square foot minimum lot sizes per this agreement. This is the overall site. It is R1 and VC currently requesting the PUD zone. It is 59 acres. At this point, because it is kind of a master plan, our max density, max unit count is 271 detached single-family lots. That's the maximum we're requesting. Whether or not we get there, that's to be determined with future submittals. That nets out to a density of 4.67 DUs per acre. So it's still in line with a lot of development that's happened in this area from a residential standpoint. We are providing 11.5 acres of open space, which is roughly 19.5%. As Christy mentioned, we're short of the 25 required, but I do have a slide discussing some of the open space here in a minute. We are providing a one acre safety center at the northeast corner of the Link and Watchman. This size was in coordination with the fire and police department. This was the size and location they wanted. We were kind of open, and this is what they picked, so this is what we're providing for them. In the future, this site will be dedicated, I'm assuming, to the city with future plats and so forth. There was a question earlier about maintenance and ownership. It will be provided by a newly formed Metro District. On top of that, will probably be an HOA for some of the CCNRs, the covenants, but a Metro District will own and maintain the open space, the park, the detention facility, and some of the perimeter fencing. As Christy mentioned, there are public improvements proposed along Link Road, Kane Road, and Crescent Moon up to this intersection here. We will not be required to improve Crescent Moon to the north, frankly, because we're not sure what's going to happen to the north and when that's going to be developed. It'd be a road to nowhere. So we are in agreement with the city to provide Crescent Moon improvements up to this intersection. As part of these improvements, we will be provided to put opaque masonry or concrete fencing along Link and Kane Road for a screening and buffer element. Moving into kind of our lot sizes, I mentioned earlier, we have proposing 3 different lot sizes. That's why we're looking for the PUD zoning. Going back to the annexation agreement, the southeastern corner, we're held by 6,000 and 8,000 square foot lots. So this pod here is roughly a maximum of 23 units. As we work through future submittals with the preliminary plan, the final plat will really identify what sizes those lots are, and we will meet those minimums when we get there.
Point those out to me again.
Yeah, right here, these kind of, it's
The brown.
kind of the dark brown. It's a little more dark brown on my sheet of paper. It's getting a little similar to the other colors, but it's this sort of string of lots
Right,
around
yeah,
here.
I can see
Yep,
it, yeah.
Yep. The sort of second lot size is this sort of cream color. This is a 5,000 square foot lot, a little bit more typical of what you see from a residential neighborhood. Roughly a size of 50 foot wide by 110 deep. And that's the majority of our lots. We're at a max of 150 units of about, it's over half, 55% of our proposed density is in this lot size. And finally, the orange color, sort of internal here in the northwest corner here is our smaller lots. We're proposing a minimum lot size of 4,000 square feet. It's about a 45 by 95 product. I realize that square footage is greater than 4,000, but some of these lots are a little smaller than a true 45 by 95 multiplier, just from cul-de-sacs, distances, and so forth. This lot size makes up about 36%, about a third of our proposed residential units. One thing I would like to point out in working with staff, to the north, there was concern with the future VC commercial to the north. So what we did on this northern lot, we put a condition on the ODP that the rear setbacks along the north will be a minimum of 25-foot building setback to help create a better buffer. We discussed adding a tract along there, but as we know, tracts along property lines usually become sort of a no man's land and kind of an unsightly alley. So we thought increasing the building setback was a better alternative to kind of that empty tract back there. We do have the 1 acre safety center here, and as you'll see, Watchman does not go through, even though Watchman will be kind of not a busy road, but will be the main feeder into the subdivision. We purposely did not design Watchman to go through because we didn't want Watchman to become to cut through once Crescent Moon develops to the north and to the east. So we kind of created this circuitous route through the site to help limit that cut through. Now, are people going to cut through? Absolutely. But since it's not a straight shot, we hope it will minimize that. And if you can take Crescent Moon straight down to Kane, then you can get to Link, then you can kind of go north, south, and west. Regarding the open space plan, this was approved by Parks Board on October 1st. The first sort of rendition of the parks plan actually had it surrounded by lots on 3 sides. We got some feedback working with staff that was too narrow. So what we did is we went back and redesigned the park and made it wider from approximately 110 foot width to a 220 foot width. And with that, we eliminated the lots bordering one side of it. So now we have public street on north and east. That's important because that provides on-street parking. For whether there's a small birthday party or a mini get-togethering with a picnic, then there's some on-street parking where before it was surrounded by units, and there was no real way to get parking or guests to that park. The park site is approximately 7 acres. The sort of T-shaped here, upside-down T-shape. As Christy mentioned, the original proposal came out at a $35,000 per acre sort of improvement fee in lieu of. Working with the city, that has been increased up to $120,000 per acre, as Christy mentioned, to help better reflect some of the current cost of design and construction. So with that, free to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions right now from council?
Well, I'm still concerned about the water that you're gonna get from the south.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So currently, you're correct. This goes kind of in a southwesterly direction. We have met with and talked to Gary Steen with FMIC Ditch on a couple different occasions, and what we're proposing for our site is we're going to capture it in a culvert and a pipe, approximately this location where it comes across. We will pipe it around the site and let it bypass our site through the existing underlink culvert now. So it'll just, instead of going overland in a swale, we're just capturing in a pipe sufficient enough to capture their maximum flows around our site westward into the ditch it does now. From the southwest, what happens is, I don't know if I have a better map. Perhaps this one. Southwest, it collects in this corner here, and then culverts under Kane, and again through the existing culvert under Link Road, and then filters to the west down to the creek.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that road is gonna be a mess. You catch that, when those guys do their flooding, they flood their fields, we happen to get a big rain, your holding pond won't do it.
We do have Greg Channing, who might be able to answer more details. So we've two different systems on this site. Let me go back. We are capturing, let's go to the green one. We're capturing the off-site FMIC flows in a pipe and bypassing our site. All of our on-site flows, whether it comes from the east, the north, northwest, we're capturing in our detention facility as required, and we'll release that historic rates, what happens now. So that water on-site will be treated as per state and city requirements, and then released in a separate pipe from the FMIC ditch water. It's a little...
I understand what you're
Yep,
saying,
okay.
but there's gonna be water coming across there. I don't know how big a pipe you're talking about, but when they flood those fields, that road is screwed up.
Nope, understood, and that's, we have worked with them, we've gotten the numbers from them, what they release, and that's been factored in our drainage report that has been reviewed by the city. As we continue with detailed design, there's probably some details we can continue to flush out with a
Telling
prelim
the
plat.
people along that holding pond are gonna be in trouble.
Here?
The water's not going to the holding pond from the other field. It's going
The
straight to
water's
the
gonna
pipe.
go right across the road.
Water table is zero behind that property on the south side. That whole south corner stays flooded almost year round.
This one?
I'm just trying to protect your people that are gonna be buying your houses.
Understood, nope, understood.
Okay, hold on. Public, you'll get your chance. Just give us a couple more seconds. I'll let you guys come on up. Ms. Duncan, your light's on.
I know we didn't address the issue of the fence around the pond, the detention pond, but what safety measures are you taking?
With respect to the pond itself, in talking with Ben Sheets yesterday, and some of this, you see typically a lot, it's city and county of signs of like hazard, periodic flooding, detention facility type. From a safety measure, that's probably the best we can do, just to alert people that a sign of, hey, potential hazard when it's raining.
Right. Typically with detention ponds, they're only really full if there's a large rain. And so, you can go to Eagle Side Development with Cumberland Green, some of those areas where we have our larger detention ponds, there's nothing out there. It's a kind of a pit. And then when it fills up, hopefully people stay out of it, but the water typically doesn't stick around for more than a day or two anyway. And so it depends on the rain and how much it's raining. But to put a fence around it would really not serve any purpose other than to put a fence around a piece of land that there's nothing there. In the hopes that, one day we'll get some rain and fill it up for a few days. But putting a fence around it's not really going to save anybody from anything.
Just concerned about the housing that's right here, and then it's not that far from the park. So I don't know.
Housing here?
Can't say what won't happen, but I just wanted to know what safety measures you had in place.
At this point would be signage to, a hazard type signage,
Right.
From a safety measure. We do intend to permit, kind of the standard wood vinyl fencing along that side lot lines and rear lot lines. So, these homeowners have the option to fence in their yard if they so choose.
Right, and again, these are not uncommon. These detention ponds are not. Almost every one of our newer developments have detention ponds. High school has detention ponds right outside the building, so they're not uncommon, and they don't pose a risk of, as any other thing would, if all of a sudden we got a lot of rain. I think that would be the bigger issue in that. But again, most of the time these things stay dry, and it really depends on the weather and what's going on. Ms. Thompson?
These kids are gonna go to what school?
Actually, Jordal. They are in the Jordal district, which is,
It's to the south.
it is southwest. Actually, I have a slide on that. Down here. So since we're over a mile away, the intent is it's busters, dropped off, picked up.
And that's really a district question.
And that,
more than-
came from the district itself, correct?
No, that's fine. I know Eagle Side is at capacity, and so that's why I asked.
Which is unfortunate, because that's one of our newest schools.
Brand new
and
school, and it's already at capacity, yeah, so I was just
I
making
think it
sure
was
that
poor
that
planning
question had been
on that,
asked.
on the building of the.
So the kids are gonna be bused to Jordal?
Per the district, bus option, drop-off option, carpool option, but because it is some distance away, walking, biking is probably not the most realistic option, yes.
Can I have one question? On your houses that are bordering the pond and
go around
bordering
on that
Kane, they will be not down, the same level as the road, will they? They'll be up above the road, making Link, like a relief if anything did happen?
I can't definitively answer that question because at this point we're sort of a preliminary stage and a master plan stage. As we drill down into the next steps of hopeful future steps of the preliminary plan and more detailed grading, some of those questions will begin to flush out of what do some of the elevations look like, what do some of the separations look like.
Because you do have plenty of dirt. I drive by there now, every now and then, you got a lot of dirt. And just to make Link your overflow in an absolute dire emergency would be logical to make the houses just a little above Link.
And what doesn't really show up here is along Link, it's actually quite a bit. We have existing utility easements. There's electrical. I think there's a Mountain View electrical easement. There's a City of Fountain easement. There's also a 10-foot landscape setback. So the houses are set back from Link, 30, 35 feet. So that potential to add some grass line swales, might be there along Link potentially. But again, that's kind of a detail that as we get into the more design, we'll be able to wrap our heads around a little bit more.
Any other questions from council? Okay, since we are in a public hearing, I'm going to allow public to
Thank you.
come up and ask and any questions or comments, and we'll go from there. And there's new public I've noticed, so when you come up, just state your name for the record.
Shall I make this thing go to different slides, Christie?
Left and right here.
Gordon Rick, I would tell council that I would slightly disagree with Ms. Martinez on her characterization that it was the planning commission's idea to add the crosswalk and the fence. There were 10 to 15 people at the meeting, residents of Cumberland Green, who expressed multiple concerns to us. Several were parents of special needs children who are in the area, and the detention pond that is currently there is about 10 feet deep. It's got very steep sides, and they were worried about their children falling into this detention area and getting hurt. They expressed that concern to me as a planning commission member. I, as a planning commission member, tried to address their concerns by recommending a fence. Secondly, with regards to the crosswalk, as was stated, yes, Jordal is the school. However, the school board has the option to redraw the district boundaries as they see fit. Potentially, they could move the boundary to where these kids would be going. Just light it is, but it's the star. All right, whatever. Yep, there it is. So the kids could walk across here and wind up going to Eagle Side eventually. if the school district redraws the lines. They were worried about kids walking across Link without a crosswalk. Secondly, down here along the creek, we've got the disc golf course and the park that's down there. Kids are going to want to go down there, play disc golf, enjoy those amenities as well as the ones they have in their area. Finally, if they do wind up going to school, they're going to develop friends. They're going to want to go across the Link to see their friends. Their request to protect their children was to get a crosswalk. I, as a planning commission member, sympathized, and that's why that was added. This was at the public's request, not ours. We just forwarded their request. I understand the concerns about the crosswalk, but those kids are going to be going across Link no matter what we say, whether we put the crosswalk in there or not. The question is, how do we protect them? We as the public have an obligation to protect those kids. What method it is, I don't know what's best, but that was the recommendation I made. Thank you.
Okay, just to address that, however the recommendation came from planning, it came, and so it doesn't matter if it was the public or not. I mean, you represent the public, so that's what's coming forward. That's kind of a neither here nor there kind of conversation. The reality is, the school district makes the choices on where they're going to send kids and where they can go. If families live in Aspen Ranch and want to choice their kids in the Eagle Side, they'd have to petition the district to be able to do that. If there's simply no room there, the district turns them down and says you have to go to your home school, which in this case right now is Jordan. Yes, the district may redo boundaries, which they just did. I don't know if it was this year or last year. And it happens every few years that they redistrict or redo the boundaries of the district. The issue with and so that it really is dependent on the district on that one. We have really no control as to where the kids go, and sometimes it is very silly thinking when you can see the school, but you have to go to one that's not even close. I don't get it. It happens in every school district in America, but it just happens. So I mean, we deal with it that way, and it's up for the district to figure out how they're going to fill their buildings. And so, and when they build their buildings, and knowing of all the development that's slotted for the future in this area, it's not to say that there may not be another elementary school coming in the future, and one of these other developments coming. So, that for the time being, that's what we got to go with as a city. Crosswalk. This street is Link is going to be and it already is. It's a thoroughfare that again, we in years past it hasn't been. We're a small, quiet community, but as time has proven to us, that is slowly going away at the behest of a lot of us. But it is what it is, and so to put a crosswalk in the middle of a busy street, I understand the safety concerns and things like that. It could impede traffic a lot to be able to put something like that. So I understand the concerns. I can tell you, as my own observation, I play at that disc golf course a lot, and there are rarely any kids there. They go to the playground, which there will be one in the middle of theirs, and we go on, at least a monthly basis to that disc golf course, and usually it's a there's a kind of, I don't want to say a cult following, but there's a group of disc golfers that use that facility, and rarely have I seen kids out there playing. So on that, next person.
My name's Greg Bowman. I live up above on Kane Road. I'm one of the guys that floods these fields. These fields, if you look to the south side of Kane Road, if you go there almost any day of the week, that field's continuously flooded, okay? My water comes down into the field just to the southeast corner there, okay? And that field is massively flooded every time. You're telling me that you're gonna put a road along that boundary there and a sidewalk along the north side of that, right? Where's that water gonna go? How are you gonna get that water? Cause this is massive flooding. This isn't just a tunnel of water. If you go down there when we flood these fields, that north side of that road has water going down there almost like a river in most cases. So it's gonna undermine them sidewalks and them roads, true or false? What's gonna happen is the roads that we use every day are gonna be pretty much useless. We have enough trouble with the dirt as it is. What are we gonna do when we put asphalt over the top of it and trap that water under there? We're gonna have a lot of sinking problems, maybe a lot of sinkholes, a lot of stuff that comes in there. I don't know, are they gonna put catch basins in there? How are you gonna get that water contained? Because we are flooding fields, so we are putting that water underground in mass quantities. So my concerns are, what that side, the east of Link Road right there, going up Kane Road, that first section, in my opinion, is gonna be a disaster, you know? What do we do about that? I don't know how they're gonna divert that water out of there when you have the south side that's continuously flooded, the north side that we flood on our own, and trapping that water up in those sections is gonna create problems for roads and sidewalks, in my opinion, and their walls, everything. So the saturation in there, as far as concrete goes, that's what I do for a living. I don't see them withstanding for, you know, any great length of time. I see a lot of problems in there.
Okay, thank you. Good points. Ben, are you able to answer some of that for us? Hold on. Anybody else have concerns around that need to speak? Okay, go ahead, and if you can, just kind of give us an idea of the engineering around it. And
Sure. Ben Sheets, Assistant City Engineer. I'll walk up here.
go ahead.
The system that was designed by Matrix Design Group, a couple of collection points, one here, and that's gonna be a 48-inch storm sewer pipe, which is more than about 10 times the amount of water during the water call. For this side, for the flow that's coming here, they've designed a 42-inch pipe to collect this. So that water will be routed around this water, and then it will ultimately discharge west of Route 2. So the study took into consideration this whole drainage basin, everything that's getting at this intersection from
Can I approach that?
Sure. Yep.
We're flooding these sections here, okay? How are you gonna get the water over here into that pipe to route around here? When we're flooding specifically here, this is continuously flooded in here, okay? So you're talking about the flow coming this way, but we have water continuously through here and mass quantities of water being put into these corners. So how do you get that water out of that corner to save the concrete, the asphalt, the block walls that they put around, the stucco wall, whatever? There's a big difference in the amount of water we put in there. And this section right here, right now, this runs water when we run water all the way down. I understand you could put a pipe in here and catch that water, but what about everything in here and everything on this side?
Can't answer that right now. I'd have
Okay.
to dig into the report more. But if there was, there's definitely an opportunity if some does need to be picked up from that
That's all,
area.
yeah, that's all.
This
all
is gonna be a
field.
48-inch pipe, which can convey a couple hundred cubic feet per second, so it should be able to handle it.
As long as you have the collection plan.
As long as you have a collection.
I think that's a concern. As
As long as you plan for
Basin,
it.
how are you gonna, if you have 15 acres, 20 acres going across there, how are you gonna trap that water to convey that water around those roads? Because I drive that road every day, and I know it's rough right now. I can only imagine once you put asphalt on there and then block water underneath everything else, it's gonna be kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It would likely be catch basins, flared end sections, area drains, things like that. I mean, that's something definitely the engineer will have to look at when they come to final design at this planning
When I
stage.
irrigate up there, you can come watch and see how much water I put in that ground. I put a lot in there.
And you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and I send it to the property across from me and to the next one over, so I'm the first guy in line with it, so.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate the conversation. So we could flush a lot of that out and be ready for that. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Six
Miss,
more drop inlets into your 48-inch pipe.
You could drop in, there's several ways we can do it.
okay,
Definitely able to do it.
okay,
It's a design challenge, but it's nothing that can't be overcome with engineering, good prudent engineering design practices.
okay. And I trust engineers.
That's great.
Ms. Thompson.
This is more of a Troy question. After the Waldo Canyon fire, when the county put a lot of detention ponds up, in that area, they ended up with some water right issues because instead of the water going into the ground immediately, it was into these detention ponds and it drained at a slower rate. Is there any possibility that, because this water they're putting on there now is soaking into the ground, pretty quickly, and then now we're gonna be putting it into a detention pond, which is gonna be a slower release of the water back into the system? Is there any possibility of that being an issue with this?
And that's why the engineers are always so focused on that historical flows. So they use that metric to design the detention ponds so that it keeps with the historical flows. And so I imagine what happened with Waldo Canyon is it was tough to determine the historical flows because the nature of that area had changed significantly. And so here, I think we've got, and the hope is that we've got significant data to rely upon when designing the ponds and knowing how fast and how quickly to discharge the water. So I think it comes down to the engineering specs, and I think all of that should be contained in the drainage report.
Okay.
I fill sinkholes constantly in my fields every year. So with the water that goes through there, it creates problems. Even in our open fields, we wind up backfilling a lot. If you go to my property, I got a pile of dirt out there that I use all year long to continue to fill the holes that are created by the water that we put
Right.
in.
Okay.
That water that comes down in that northeast corner, or in that northeast corner, or southeast corner of that property, I fear that you're gonna have the same problems that we have, that what we got right now. So, because it is a mass quantity of water and it does create issues, are we gonna wind up with, roads falling in with other stuff, especially as we trap it in there? It's gonna create other issues, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's gotta be a way to get the water out of there after.
Yeah, and that's kind of the challenge we're going to look at. Also, just kind of back to that point, when we disrupt those historic flows is when, and it's either good for the downstream user or bad. If we're disrupting those flows, that's when those right or right issues come into play. So that's up to Ben and Christy to make sure we're not disrupting those. So with stormwater and all that, and that's the whole stormwater discussion up in the springs, and ensuring that the people downstream, when they're due their water, it needs to be there. And so it's up to the city and the developer to make sure those flows aren't disrupted. Otherwise, there's bigger consequences involved. So, city manager, you had your light on?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, at this point, you're looking at this land use, but it's really important to point out that, and it was mentioned earlier, they still have to continue that deep dive. And I know for our own engineers, both Brandy and Ben, they are so keyed in and focused on various drainage issues around the community right now.
Right.
That so I'm glad you brought up those comments, because this is gonna be a really important thing for them to look at, not just from the city standpoint, but from the future homeowners that'll be up there
Right.
as well. That's gonna be something that's gonna be a huge focus for them.
Well, and the
because becoming a
homeowners,
focus
the
citywide.
homeowners who are around it.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
exactly.
going to get affected too, because Lorson Ranch is the best example. They did no planning for their stormwater, and look what it does now. Squirrel Creek gets so flooded it almost floods out Metcalf Park. I mean, it goes far down. So it's a part of that. Ms. Duncan.
I just need to disclose that I was a part of the planning commission when this issue was brought up and the residents were at the meeting. I also want to voice my concerns about the future homeowners and the drainage issue that they face.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other public at this time? And again, there's a lot that needs to be fleshed out, especially, like as Scott said, concerning the drainage. That's going to be the bigger piece. I do have some concerns with the transitioning. from some of the areas to, and I don't know if we can go back, or if someone can move back, maybe the applicant can, because I guess you guys are the ones who have to answer to this anyway. But I thought in most of our PUDs, kind of the average, and I may be wrong, but the average lot size is around 6,500 square feet. Is that correct?
That would probably have been correct about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So lot sizes are definitely getting smaller.
They are getting smaller. So now 65 or 6,000 to 8,000's,
It's probably considered a larger lot in an
Really?
urban development.
okay, because I was on a 6,500 square lot, and we were, I could touch my neighbor.
And I'm on a 5,000 square foot lot that
Right.
backs to CNF.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, what we've seen, real lot, both in the county and the city, is this market, really the market demand, the climate has sort of shifted to these smaller lots. You're right, I've been here since 2001.
Okay.
So I've seen a big boom in, the early 2000s to late 2000s, where it was 5, 6, 7, 8,000 square foot lots. That demand has changed to a much smaller lot for a variety of reasons. One, maintenance, water cost, irrigation. Frankly, we're an outdoor community, so folks are spending their time outside. That's what the feedback we're getting from developers and builders who come to us and say, hey, our market data is saying this, we want these lots. Now, the flip side to that is these lots are desirable in as much as you provide them with an alternative to their, front or smaller backyards. In this case, we are providing, a very large central park. And keep in mind, each one of these lots, even though they're a bit smaller, does have individual, front and backyards. They're just, for example, these guys here, they're just sort of more long and narrow. As a 45 foot or a 40 foot wide, but deeper. But we offset that smaller private yard with this more public open space. That's where we've seen the demand going the past probably 5 years. And based on current master planning, comp plannings, the trend will probably continue to be more dense.
Okay, and my counter on that is, and I understand there's trends and things that happen across time, and when I thought 6,000 square feet was tiny, and now that's considered large, which I think is weird. We're talking about areas that are eventually enclosed in a city. You still have some larger areas that are opened up, and so more of my concern would be, I guess, kind of the southwest corner. If you can go back to that, I don't.
Of the site.
Right there, just go back to that one where you were.
This one?
So where you have large lot residential, what does that large lot residential look like in the future? And are we going to have truly large lots? You see what I'm saying?
That's a great question. So this map sort of spells this out, a bigger picture. You're correct. And today, if these were built tomorrow, you're correct. They would be sort of on the edge of town. But if you look at this long use comp plan, take away the Eagle side parcel, everything around it is intended to be single family residential. Whether that's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 square foot lots is to be determined. But the long range plan surrounding this parcel is single family residential. As we get further east, you're talking multifamily, village commercial, regional commercial centers, where the regional commercial centers, and these are your big box stores. So you're talking a very intense development, both from a residential and commercial standpoint. Now, you're absolutely correct. Today, it appears to be out of place. In the long range, and this is part of future planning, long range planning, this gets surrounded by what we would call sort of urban development. Now, whether that takes 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, market helps dictate that.
Okay, thank you for that, and I get it, and this is kind of the point in the conversation where public needs to understand, and there are pockets of land in our city that are wide and open right now, and the thought and theory is those are going to be wide and open forever. And that's where our eagles land, and the deer frolic and play. And in reality, that's not the case. And so, and this isn't on you guys. It's the nature of development and how cities grow that once was this open space with wildlife is slowly leaving, and as you stated, and it shows on the picture, this entire area is going to be filled, and it may not be in 5 years, it may not be in 15 years, but it's coming, and has nothing to do with you guys specifically, but you're going to take the beating because you're the first. So.
Understand, and I would also again like to point out that there's only a third of our units,
Right.
So 2/3 are the more what we think of the more traditional suburban size, and we purposely, put these in the interior of the project to the south. They're surrounded by larger lots, and then up here in the northwest corner, where this is a very intense intersection, we have future commercial and link roads, a busy road. So typically those where you see your higher densities, smaller lots, multifamily townhomes, as you transition internally to the larger detached single-family units, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Still under public hearing.
Public safety is comfortable with the egress and access.
And you guys are great with that safety center there, according to the applicant, that you guys kind of worked that out, that spot? Okay.
And I just, again, like to comment on a couple of the issues. Mr. Trainer, he mentioned it. We have a long way to go from this macro picture to a micro picture. So, we understand there's drainage concerns, and Mr. Mayor, as you mentioned, we have to vet this through the city. So it's not like we can go start building tomorrow. So we understand those drainage issues are important and certainly need to be addressed. Regarding the fence and the crossing, we do agree with staff's sort of recommendation not to include those as a condition of approval for some of the variety of safety reasons, the precedent it may set for fencing future detention ponds that may come in next week at a different project. And with the school crossing, the school district may change their mind, next week, 2 years, 3 years, because Watchman and Link is not intended to be a stop-controlled intersection. Link and Kane will be at some point. That in the future makes a better probably crossing, because that would be a more controlled intersection.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. If no other public comment, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Erin Slifka. I actually own the property. I'll just walk up there.
Okay.
It's right here.
Okay.
So, and I just bought it with an amazing dream, but looks like it's getting crushed. Anyway, I have a question about the fencing. I have horses. I actually just established a business. Most of my clients are special needs children. I do equine assisted physical therapy, occupational therapy. And my dream was actually to expand what we already have into the psychotherapy realm. I'm getting wounded warriors involved, all kinds of wanting to service veterans and their families. I used to board my horses right off of Squirrel Creek, and the amount of trash that comes flying into those fields, I would have to pick up every day to keep my animals from ingesting it. That's an issue. There was also, with all of the Cumberland Green moving in, which is great, but even now, there are people that stop along that road and feed my horses things that are poisonous for them. So I guess I'm just voicing a concern with the safety of me as already a landowner, wanting to establish, my farm site there. Georgette is right across. She has lots of horses she boards. I just feel like it's going to make it an unsafe environment for the children that I'm going to be servicing and the animals. So I know the development's coming. I just don't know if someone can explain why they're not going to fence it completely around. Is that maybe because there's future development planned on the McNeese property?
Typically there are, and that would also be encumbered on whatever development that is, and
Okay.
so those do occur over time.
Okay. Because right now it's all alfalfa field. You flood it, and we all share in that and feed our livestock.
Right.
So it's important to keep the trash and the nasty out of what we're organically growing for our animals.
Yeah. I get it. I understand. And I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
But I think staff understands what the concern is, and we'll make, ensure to address it as that comes forward. And I hope the applicant will take that into account as well, and figure out how to at least address it on their part of the property and their part of the area, because it's important. And it's also important that when you see things going on that aren't right, make sure you let us know, and we'll address it with them as well, and in moving forward in that. It's difficult. I don't. That's why I'm not in development. Okay.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. If no other questions, as far as public hearing, I will close the public hearing on both items. Any further discussion from council? Anything else, Christy, that we need to speak about or talk about?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Can we review before we vote exactly what it is we're voting on? There's been so many different things discussed. Are we just voting on just the rezoning at this moment?
Well, we'll do first Part A, which is, or Item B, overall development plan. So that would be what this looks like right here. It's kind of the overall development plan. Item C is just the zoning from Village Center to Plan Unit Development. Shouldn't that have gone the other way around? So we have, does it matter?
No, you have to approve your overall development plan for the land use first before you can zone it PUD, because a
Okay.
PUD has to have their plan in place. So yes, it does seem counterintuitive, but yes, you have to look at the plan first and then do the zoning.
Okay, am I missing something else, Ms. Thompson?
I just want to make sure what we're doing.
Okay. And then also, if and when we make a motion to either include or not include items 5 and 6 on the recommendation from Planning Commission, staff and applicant are on good with 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that correct? On the recommendations, okay. Personally, and my opinion would be to leave 5 and 6 out. I understand the need for safety, and it's not because, and you know, it's gonna, I guarantee you on Facebook in about 15 minutes, I hate kids because I don't want a fence around a dry open piece of land. And I want them all run over because I don't want to put a crosswalk on a busy street. So mark my words. But at this point, I understand the concerns, but they're counterintuitive is the way I see the development goes. And this would be for any development. If we put a fence around this detention pond, then we'd have to put one around every other detention pond in the city because they're all exactly the same. It just doesn't make sense. And then the crosswalk, again, that will get taken care of, I think, in the bigger intersections that are to the north and south of this property, or at the north and south of this, and in the bigger intersections. So those will be taken care of. That's my opinion. If anybody else has anything different or feels strongly towards that, the only other question I have is, is Duncan allowed to vote on this one since she voted as a planning commissioner? When I had to do that, I had to recuse myself totally, and I wasn't allowed to vote.
And that's what Ms. Huffman had that concern. Mr. Rick voiced that concern, and it was my opinion that she could participate as long as she disclosed. So if she feels comfortable doing that, I think there are many cities throughout the state that smaller cities and towns where people serve on both, and that's something that planning commission, that is all part of the record. That's public record. So nothing that she's heard has been outside of what currently exists on the record for this issue. So
Okay.
from that point of view, I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
Okay, and I was on some board that approved this too, so I'm part of that too.
I didn't think about that.
Same thing though, isn't it?
It would be the same thing. Did they make a recommendation?
Can we make sure people are turning on their microphones, because if other people can't hear you, we just push the little button.
Turn it on.
So what was Park Board's role? Did they make a recommendation?
They approved the park plan on
Park
this.
Board would have
On
looked
the
at the
park
park plan
plan.
only.
Okay. I think that works as a disclosure, so you viewed the park plan. That's not unfamiliar to you, right? Okay.
So it would be the same.
It would be the same.
All right, so I'll leave that up to you ladies if you feel comfortable and you feel you're impartial enough to go ahead and vote as a council member, then you're more than welcome to stay on. If you don't think you can do that, then don't. You'll need to recuse yourself at that point in time. So, any further discussion from council? Okay, seeing none, we will, do I need to reread, or can I just say item? I will just read the first part of it.
Can I make a statement to the developer?
Go
one
ahead.
time? Just a point here about the fence around the thing and people falling into it. If you just go to the north end or somewhere where it's off and you give it a 2-to-1 slope on that particular area, then there's definitely a way for everybody to get in and out real easy.
And honestly, most of the neighborhoods that have these, they've turned them into sledding hills when it's snowing.
Yeah,
so
they sled on.
fence would ruin that for the kids. So there, I do like kids. Okay. We will vote on item B, first reading of ordinance number 1743. And ordinance approving an overall development plan for Aspen Ranch.
1, 2, 3, and 4 recommendations.
It's up to the person doing the motion, right? No, I wasn't making the motion. Mr. Lauer.
Move to approve ordinance 1743 on first reading, subject to conditions 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, and Mr. Applegate.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Please vote.
7, I'm sorry, Councilmember Geek.
My button
Reese.
don't work.
Let me reset.
Okay, please revote.
Sorry.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, and then we'll go ahead and vote on item C, first reading of ordinance number 1744, an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Fountain from single-family small lot residential R1 and village center to district planned unit development. It should be PUD, I don't know why I said PUS, for general, property generally located east of Link Road and north of Kane Road, also known as Aspen Ranch. Mr. Lauer
Move to approve ordinance 1744 on first reading.
and Ms. Duncan.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, this next item, Troy, how long will this one take, you think? It says. Okay, let's go ahead and get through it. I'm opening a public hearing, and first reading of ordinance number 1740, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code for the city of Fountain, Colorado, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, providing a penalty for the violation thereof, providing for the manner of amending such code, and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I warned the council a couple weeks ago that I was very excited for this item on the agenda. Just a quick recap of, for new members and members of the public, how municipal law is created. The council serves as the legislative body for the city of Fountain, and they can change, add, subtract from the city's code through ordinance. And when the council passes an ordinance, that ordinance becomes law, right? How a bill becomes a law. An ordinance is the local authority's version of a bill. And then that becomes a code, that becomes law. In the city of Fountain, however, well, at least it's been a long time since we've created a singular document that contains all the ordinances, that really establishes a code. We've kind of kept it together the best that we could through the city clerk's office, through various departments. But one document that has all the ordinances doesn't really exist. It exists sort of as an idea. That is until now. We have been working since I got here for probably 4 or 5 years even, trying to establish, we've been working with an organization called MuniCode to really take all the ordinances that exist that the council has passed over the years into one document that contains all of the council's legislative action. And with the help of MuniCode, we've put that together. That's this blue binder sitting over here on the table. That is our Fountain Municipal Code. If you go back into my office, I have many books. That's the Colorado Revised Statutes. This is Fountain's version of that. And it's very exciting to have that all in one place, because before we had to pull up individual ordinances, determine if there had been ordinances since then, to determine if that still is good law. Now we have this to rely upon, and every time the council approves an ordinance, this is the document that will be adjusted by Muni Code. And as soon as this code is adopted, it'll be available online, and it'll be updated regularly. So it's a very, very exciting. We're kind of moving into a time that it'll be a lot easier to look things up. And so that's all that I have. We're adopting the ordinance that you have is adopting it by reference. So this code is available for anyone to look at. No real significant changes have been made, but there were a lot of inconsistencies, broken links, references to state and federal law that maybe didn't exist. They don't exist anymore, and so all of those things have been changed. And in the ordinance are some of the more substantial changes, primarily changes to make the penalty provisions throughout the code consistent. That is really the primary change to the city code. So that's all I have, unless there are questions.
I have no questions. I used to laugh when Al Ziegler would thumb through that thing frantically, looking for an answer. But I got no questions. Any questions from public on this?
My name is Audrey Beckett, and my question is, does this also pertain to the zoning code?
Good question.
The land use code?
This does not. This was created before, well, the zoning code still has second reading at the next council meeting, and so this does not include the zoning changes. In fact, when we were going through this, we decided not to even look at Title 17, knowing that was coming. So Title 17 in this book is all old, and if and when the new zoning ordinance passes, that'll get replaced in the book.
And second reading is at the next council meeting.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, what would council like to do with this? Mr. Geek?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1740 on first reading.
Okay, Mr. Applegate?
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval. Oh, you know what? Did I close the public hearing?
No.
Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing. I'm sorry. Any further discussion? Okay, we're gonna stay with the motion and second, if that's okay? Okay, please vote.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, sorry about that. Item 10, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. I'll start with City Manager Trainer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to welcome the new council members. Excited to have you here. And also welcome you back, Richard. It's great to have you back as well. So really look forward to working with you all. I wanted to also mention that Lexi, my assistant, will be working on coordinating some new council photos for everyone. So I think the route we're going to go to make it easy on the council is she's going to identify and work with a photographer who has a studio, and then get you hooked up so that you can connect up with that photographer at a time that's convenient for you to go in and get your photos made, so then we can put them in that photo spread downstairs. Just also want to remind everyone our next meeting is next Tuesday. So just because of the way this month is, they're back to back, but just want to make sure we all knew that, and that's all I had.
Hey, Troy, anything? Chief Maxon? Commander Lewis?
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Who's back there? Ben, anything further? You good? All right, thanks a lot. Christy left, so she gets no choice. Mr. Lewis? Mr. Trilch?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. I just wanted to make one brief announcement tonight. On the website, we have a new feature. If you go to the main page, you'll see something called the Citizen Connect Initiative. This is a new email group that citizens can subscribe to, and they'll be added to an email database, and we'll be able to connect with them by email. So we can send information, newsletters, can correspond by email. So it's very easy to register on the website. So we've kind of put it up there as a soft launch since it is new, and there'll be a lot more information going out to the public about it. But just wanted to bring it up tonight as a new way to connect with the city.
Okay, great. Anything from IT? Nope. You good? All right, awesome. Ms. Huffman,
Just that we have executive and GID tonight.
executive and GID, and how should we handle those? In which order, I guess, is the question.
I'm gonna request the executive in regular session, and then you can, however you wanna do it.
Okay, okay.
You do
Miss-
executive first, everybody leaves.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's kind of weird.
Ms. Duncan, anything further? Mr. Applegate?
No.
Nope. Ms. Tessis, Mr. Lauer?
Yeah, just one thing that I slipped my mind completely earlier. On December 19th, over at the high school auditorium, the high school band director has put together what he's calling a community band. It's advanced high school band students and several members of the community, including myself and my wife, doing kind of a holiday concert. And one of the pieces that's going to be done there is the Trans-Siberian Orchestra version of A Mad Russian's Christmas, where someone on this dais will be playing guitar. And then I'll be doing bass for everything else. But
Okay.
on the 19th, and I can't remember if it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, but if you show up at 6, you're definitely not going to miss it.
Okay.
You just may not be able to get into the doors, but you definitely won't miss it if you show up at 6.
Okay, awesome. Ms. Thompson? Okay, I have nothing. We will, we will do announcement executive sessions. We will do GID first, in case public does want to stick around for that, and then we'll go in executive session. How's that? So are we going to announce first?
Yes, please. I'd like to request an executive session pursuant to CRS